Amen. All right, you guys can grab a seat. Give it up for the worship band. That is right. So I see a lot of new faces, and for those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jake, and I'm super excited that you are here tonight. We're going to have some fun. And if you were here last week, you remember we're in this series called The Good News. The Good News. So who can tell me what the good news means? I know someone remembers this from last week. Gospel. Yes, that is right. Okay, now here's the kicker. Who can tell me what the gospel means?
It's the life of Jesus Christ.
Yes, the life, death, the resurrection of Jesus Christ and all that He accomplished with it. And so during this series, we're taking a look at how the gospel, at how the good news speaks into situations that we deal with every single day. And so tonight we're going to be looking at bullying. What does the good news, what does the gospel say about bullying? How do we respond to bullying? And why do we have hope in the midst of bullying? And so my bottom line tonight, before I even go any further, is that we love our enemies until we have no enemies. We love our enemies until we have no enemies. And so, hey, if you don't know me, I love to tell stories. So I'm gonna start off with a little story here. And here's the deal. My wife is sitting there in the back corner. Caitlin, would you stand up for me for a second? Yes, this is Caitlin. Caitlin is going to be the subject of the story tonight. So Caitlin and I have been married. She's so excited about that. Caitlin and I have been married for about 2 months now. And you see, there's this thing that happened during our first week of marriage. And it tested our marriage like I never would have thought. So, I'm a morning person, right? Are any other morning people in here? Oh, gosh. Okay, we got a couple. So, like, my big thing, the reason that I'm a morning person is because there is nothing like waking up and taking a nice hot shower. Now, who's with me there? Yes! A nice, yes! Thank you! Give an amen to that. There is nothing like waking up and getting in the shower, taking a nice hot shower. And so, man, I wake up in the morning and I'm excited. I'm ready for the day. I hop in the shower. I crank that bad boy down. And like, I got some music playing. I'm jamming out to some Taylor Swift. I'm singing. Yes! I'm jamming out. I'm having my moment, right? I'm having my moment here. But like, here's the thing. Something came over my wife in this moment. I'm not sure what in the heck possessed her to do this, but she thought that it would be a good idea to get a bucket of ice cold freezing water and dump it on me. Okay, I'm getting a little worked up here. It's still a touchy subject, right? So I'm just having my moment in the shower, like 22. I can't sing, but I was trying. And all of a sudden, I just get hit with this ice cold bucket of water. Like, I'm gasping to catch my breath right now. I'm dying. Like, I let out this blood-curdling yell. And, you know, it was in this moment that I just kind of realized, like, people can be evil sometimes. You know? Like, people can just be evil sometimes. So don't worry, I got her back. And she didn't think it was nearly as funny as what she did to me. But I did get her back. I got my justice. But like, yeah, I mean, that's a funny, goofy story. But the reality is, like, man, people can really just be mean sometimes. And so tonight, as we lean into bullying, as we talk about bullying, I know that every single person in this room has dealt with it to some extent. Whether you've been bullied yourself or you've seen someone get bullied. Right? Like, it's such a prevalent problem. And I realize it gets even worse now that we have social media and students can just hide behind a screen and spew out venom at you and just say terrible things about you that they would never be willing to say to your face. Bullying is such a serious problem. I realize that there are students who literally dread going to school every single day because they know they're just going to be picked on. They know they're just going to be bullied and made fun of. And so bullying is such a real problem. So how do we deal with it? How do we handle bullying? What does the Bible say about it? And why do we have hope in the midst of it? In the midst of literally dreading going to school every single day because we know we're going to be picked on. Why do we still have hope in the good news? And so before I jump into the meat of it tonight, I just want you to understand a couple things. First off, would you just tell someone? Like, if you are being bullied, or if you see someone being bullied, please, 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 the first thing is tell someone. And whether that's a teacher at your school, whether that's an administrator, whether that's your parents, or whether that's even a youth leader here, you got to speak up and you got to say something about it. Understand that we serve a God and we love a God who is just, a God who loves justice. And so we ought to care about justice ourselves. Like, our God cares about things like bullying. And so we ought to care about things like bullying. But understand that as long as we are here on earth, there's going to be people who are broken, who pick on you. There's going to be broken, sinful people who are mean to you. And so we got to address this problem and how we handle it. And so I want to start off in Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 and 44 and 46 and 47. He says, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Can I get the next verse up there? Okay. Verse 46 and 47 says, "If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? And not even the tax collectors are doing that. Or are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even the pagans do that?" I understand this is probably not what you wanted to hear when you come into this room and hear that we're talking about bullying. But these are Jesus' words. This is what Jesus says. He says, listen, everyone else is telling you to love your neighbors and to hate your enemy. Everyone else is telling you to love the people that love you and hate the people that hate you. Love the people that care about you and hate the people that are mean to you. But here's what I'm saying to you. Here's what Jesus is saying to you. Is I'm telling you to love your neighbors and your enemies. I'm telling you to love the people who care about you and who love you, and love the people who are mean to you. Like, I understand that enemies is a loaded word here. So understand when I say enemies, I just want you to think about that person in your life that is so hard to love. That person in your life that is so difficult for you to love. That's the person that Jesus is talking about here. He says the way that we fight back against bullying, the way that we handle bullying is not by fighting back, it's not by violence. It's not by bullying the other person back. But it's by loving the other person. It's by love. So listen, I want you to understand, if you are willing to do this, you are going to stand out. You are so going to stand out. If you want to see an impact at your school, if you want to see an impact on your sports team, if you want to see an impact at home, then start loving your enemies. If you want people to look at your life and to notice a difference, and say, man, there's something different about that guy. There's something different about that girl. I don't know what it is, but man, they just don't look like anyone else. They don't act like anyone else. Then start loving your enemies. If you want people to look at you and see Jesus in your life, if you want people to look at you and say, man, that is someone who knows Jesus and I want what they have, then start loving your enemies. Why? Well, because in Matthew, Jesus says that everyone else hates their enemies. It's so easy to love the people that love you. But it's hard to love the people that pick on you. He says everyone else loves the people that love them, but no one loves the people that pick on them, the people that are mean to them, the people that bully them. Like, this is such a backwards way of thinking. The people are automatically going to notice a difference. They're going to question why. Why would you help that student who bullies you? Why would you help that student who picks on you? Why would you go the extra mile to show your sibling that you love them by doing their chores when all they ever do is pick on you and all they ever act towards you is just mean and they bully you? Why would you pray for the person on your sports team that's always talking behind your back and always starting drama? Right? When Jesus says pray for those who persecute us, he's not talking about the kind of prayer that's like, Jesus, I pray that you would strike that person down. I pray that by the time they turn 14 that they would be bald. Like, no. Jesus is saying, pray for that person genuinely. Like, God, I pray for the heart of that person. That they would come to know you, God, and that they would walk in relationship with you. So why do we do this? Why are we supposed to love our enemies, Jesus? Why? I don't understand. This is such a difficult thing to do. It doesn't really make sense. It's so counterculture. Everyone else is telling us to do the exact opposite of this. Why? Why do we do this? Listen, you have to understand this if you want to get this right. If you want to live a life where you love the people that pick on you, you have to understand this. This is what Jesus did for us. You know, after Jesus was beaten, and he was spit on, and he was mocked, and eventually he was nailed to a cross. You want to know what he said? As he's hanging on the cross, looking down at the Roman soldiers who had literally just nailed him up there. In Luke chapter 23, verse 34, he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In this very moment that these people are murdering Jesus, he's praying to God and telling God to forgive them. Like they're literally nailing him to a cross, and he's saying, God, would you just forgive them? Forgive them for what they're doing, because they don't know. Jesus, why? Because he loves them. Like, I want you to understand this. That because of our sin and our disobedience, and I'm in this boat too, but let me make this very personal for you. Because of your sin and because of your disobedience, you were an enemy of God. It's as simple as that. Because of your sin and because of your disobedience, you were an enemy of God. And so what did God do in that moment? How did he respond when you were his enemy? He looked at you with love in his heart, and he said, I love you so much that I'm willing to send my son to die on the cross for you. Even though you're living in complete denial of me, even though you are sinning against me and living in complete disobedience of me, I love you so much that I'm going to send my son to die on the cross for you. And so this is why we love the people that are mean to us. This is why we love our enemies. This is why we love the people that bully us. Because we understand that we were that person. To God, we were that person. And how did he respond? But with love, laying down his son's life for us. And so now, because of what Jesus did, dying that death on the cross, this is what we have to look forward to. This is why we have hope in the midst of bullying. When you wake up every single day and dread going to school because you know you're going to be picked on, this is why we have hope in the gospel. In Revelation chapter 21, verses 1 through 4, it says, Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God." Don't miss this last part here. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. This is why we have hope in the gospel in the midst of bullying, in the midst of being picked on. Because we understand that because of the sacrifice that Jesus Christ paid for us while we were still enemies of him, now we have this future in heaven where we will never know what it's like to feel pain again. Like, just take a minute and wrap your mind around that. Wrap your mind, like you're literally going to forget what it's like to cry. You're going to forget what it's like to feel pain. You're going to forget what it's like to hurt. That's the future that we have waiting for us for those who have put their faith in Jesus Christ. That's why we have hope in the midst of things like bullying, is because we know we are going to have a future where there's no more bullying, there's no more hurt, there is no more pain that we are ever going to experience again. So my bottom line, again, is that we love our enemies until we don't have any enemies. We look forward to a day, a future in heaven. There's no more enemies. There's nothing but love and joy. There's no more pain. There's no more suffering. And so, as I invite the worship band back up here, we're going to close in response again, just like we did last week. They're going to play a song, and our leaders will be in the back. And if you just got something on your chest, like if you just want to talk to a leader, I encourage you to do that now. The reason our leaders show up every single week is because they love you guys. If you've been dealing with some bullying, man, you don't have to walk through that alone. We got so many leaders here who love you and care about you. They want to walk alongside you in that. I know that stinks. You know, as we're going through this Good News series, talking about, for those who have faith in Jesus Christ, this is what they have waiting for them. Last week we talked about how God gives us a permanent home and a family to belong to. And this week we talked about a future with no more suffering, a future where we're reunited with Jesus in heaven. There's no more crying, there's no more pain ever again. I just want to make it so clear to you guys how we get there, how we put our faith in Jesus Christ. And so I have these verses from Romans 10, verses 9 and 10. It says, "If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved." It's that easy. You just gotta say, "Jesus, I believe that you came down to earth, that you actually lived a perfect life here on earth 2,000 years ago. And at the end of that life, you died the death that I deserved for the sin in my life. And I believe that you rose again on the third day, defeating sin and death forever. I believe that, and I'm professing it." It's as simple as that. You're probably looking at this thinking, it's so easy. Like, that's all it takes. All these good things we've been talking about, and that's all it takes. I just want you to understand this as I get off the stage. This is so easy for us. The reason it's so easy for us is because because it was so difficult for Jesus. Like Jesus went through all that so it could be this easy for you. So all you would have to do is say, Jesus, I believe in you, I have faith in you, and I profess that. And that's it, you are saved. And so man, God is stirring in your heart tonight that you need to make that decision. Or you just have some questions, you want to talk to a leader about that. Please don't walk out of this room without talking to a leader. Just for this moment, would you just block out what the person to your left and right of you is going to think about you? Would you just get up and go talk to a leader? I promise this is the most important decision you could ever make. So let me pray for us, and the worship band's going to come up. Oh, Jesus, we love you. Thank you so much for the sacrifice your Son gave, giving his life for us while we were still enemies. Lord, that's the kind of love that transforms us. That's the kind of love that leads us to go love our enemies. Lord, you did all of that for us because you love us. And so, Lord, I pray that that love will become so real to everyone in this room tonight. God, that our eyes would be open to how much you love us. Lord, it would be a no-brainer to run to you and run to your arms. Amen.